Team Phys-Ed, Nathan Horn, physical educator and founder of iPhys-Ed.com here, and welcome to this week's episode of What I've Learned, a weekly YouTube series where I share with you some of what I've learned. It might be a teaching idea, a tech tip, a resource I've found, or a person who's taught me something amazing. In last week's episode, I shared with you some of my thoughts on the importance of routines and procedures as we head back to school. If you missed last week's episode, then check the description below for a link. This week, I want to share with you what I've learned about physical literacy and some amazing tools that you can use to help you understand more about your students' physical literacy development and their lifelong journey towards being happy, healthy, and active. Now, if you haven't heard of the term physical literacy before or you're not quite sure what it means, then I'll tell you that physical literacy, as defined by the International Physical Literacy Association, is the motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge, and understanding to value and take responsibility for engagement in physical activities for life. Currently, there's a lot of debate out there in the physical education world about the merits of the term physical literacy, both for and against. And I recently read an article by Timothy Lynch and Gregory Sukup where they discussed the confusion amongst practitioners around the naming use of the terms physical education, health and physical education, physical literacy, and health literacy. Without getting too deep into the topic right now, I want to state that I am a firm believer in the idea of physical literacy and believe that quality physical education plays a large role in the development of a person's physical literacy. For me, quality physical education is something that traditionally happens in schools. Physical literacy, on the other hand, is a lifelong journey that can be developed both inside and outside school. As discussed in one of my podcasts, The Fundamental Movement, our profession suffers from decades of confusion and identity crises, and rather than perpetuating this confusion, I believe that if physical literacy is a vehicle which can unite all of us to achieve a common goal of developing healthy, happy, and active individuals, we should all get behind it. One of the issues that Lynch and Sukup identify in their article is that physical literacy seems to be unsubstantiated by research and historical literature. This may well be the case, however, we shouldn't forget that physical literacy has only just begun its journey, and the research and data that will support this concept is yet to be written and collected. With that in mind, I want to share with you some amazing tools which I was first introduced to by the amazing Dr. Dean Creelars, professor at the University of Manitoba and an absolute champion in advocating for physical literacy. Dr. Dean and his colleagues with Canadian Sport for Life have developed a suite of tools which can help professionals determine gaps in physical literacy development and provide calls to action to help improve these areas. The Physical Literacy Assessment for Youth, or PLAY tools, enable you to determine the level of an individual's physical literacy. The PLAY tools consist of 6 assessment tools which include the following: Play Fun and Play Basic, which assess different fundamental movement skills; Play Self, which is used by children to assess their own physical literacy; Play Parent, which is used by parents to assess their child's physical literacy. The Play tools also include Play Coach and Play Inventory. As mentioned earlier, through the use of these tools, you can build a picture of your students' physical literacy and identify areas of weakness to work on with your students. I began using Play Self, Play Parent, and Play Basic last year in my program, and will be using them again this year to gain a clearer picture of my students' physical literacy development. I have found the Play Self tool to be an incredibly valuable way to get to know my students better, and have spent the first part of my first week back at school completing this assessment with my students. In the coming weeks, I'll be using Play Basic and Play Fun to assess my students' fundamental movement skills, and during our parent-teacher conferences, we'll be asking parents to use the Play Parent tool to give their input of their child's physical literacy development. You can find the links to the Play tools, Dr. Dean Creelars, and the article by Lynch and Sukup, and other physical literacy resources in the description below. So for this week, that's what I've learned about physical literacy. Feel free to add a comment below, sharing your thoughts about physical literacy. You can subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button now. Thanks again for tuning into the What I've Learned YouTube series. I'm Nathan Horn from iPhys-Ed, and until next week, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay active.